Immediately upon the reveal of the first batch of new Liella members, Mei and Shiki were the most talked about. They both have interesting designs, and right off the bat from their initial bios, they had fun and unique personalities and quirks. However, while Kiniko was a bit basic on first reveal, with her bio just presenting her as another shy girl who wants to be an idol archetype, Natsume was just as eccentric and unique as Mei and Shiki in her initial bios. There's a reason the Mr. Krabs comparisons were immediate after all. What really fueled the discussion, though, was something major that Mei and Shiki had that the other two didn't when first revealed. They were paired with one another. Both of their initial bios established them as close. Shiki's especially had things like, I also like experiments, chestnuts, and Mei. I don't feel the need to get close to anyone but Mei. So yeah, needless to say, shipping ensued. Oh boy, okay. So I haven't exactly shied away from discussing queer readings of characters on this channel before, but I also try to only focus on it when I feel like it's relevant to whatever I'm trying to discuss. For my Sumire and Cuckoo videos, I've discussed them as a pair, but I try and make a point to not focus on dissecting their dynamic from a romantic angle. Shipping them is 100% valid, I do. A lot of this is very easy to read as gay, but I don't feel like it's necessarily relevant in terms of discussing their arc. It certainly adds to it, but it wasn't the angle I wanted to approach it from. On the other hand, when I discussed You and Ayami's story arc, I wanted to explore whether it was meant to be read as a couple story from the get-go, and wrote the script with that in mind. Mei and Shiki are weird in this regard, mainly because they don't really get story arcs in Superstar Season 2, so they don't develop in the way You and Ayami did. We're seeing them as not just friends growing as individuals, but two girls who like one another growing to be capable of a healthy relationship added a lot to the story, even if it wasn't necessary to interpret it that way to enjoy it. I don't want to just reduce Shiki and Mei to a ship, but it also feels very ingrained into both of them that you're meant to see them as a pair, and not necessarily just a platonic pair. This is something that has been criticized by some people right from their reveal, seeing them as a forced pairing or Yuri bait. I don't think having two characters get focused together, or having one another as important parts of their backstories, or current stories is bait or forced necessarily. Hanyo and Rin are childhood friends and incredibly important to both one another and one another's arcs, but they're not a forced pairing. They both get time with other characters and they're important to one another fits with their stories. Of course, the lifelong childhood friend is going to be important in the stories where their friend overcomes deep-seated emotional issues and baggage. Superstar has a similar example. Kanan and Chisato are important in one another's stories because why wouldn't they be? Kanan is the best one to put together what Chisato needs to hear because she knows her better than anyone else. Same reason Chisato is the best one to help Kanan move forward from her past mistake or help her calm down when she's overwhelmed. However, the issue comes in when you get things like, say using Chisato as an example again, it feels like the only moment she's allowed to have are tied to Kanan. In Season 1, there are memorable and important moments where Chisato interacts with other characters like Cuckoo and Ren. Meanwhile, in Season 2, it kind of feels like she's tied to Kanan's hip. Cuckoo and Sumire have similar issues. Cuckoo especially has the jarring shift between interacting and having dynamics with all the other girls besides Ren in Season 1, to her dynamic with Sumire being her entire character, bar some idol fangirl moments in Season 2. This is what leads to a lot of people calling things bait or forced pairings. But I don't really think it's the result of a conscious choice to try and pander to or force certain ships on the audience. It's more poor balancing of the cast and struggling to use everyone well in only 12 episodes. Mei and Shiki are an even more complicated case than either of the examples I've already mentioned. Shiki is almost entirely tied to Mei. She gets some gag moments post-joining, occasionally with other characters, like the glorious moment where she and Natsume plot to murder wine. But whenever she's relevant beyond a gag, it's almost always because of Mei. Superstar Season 2, and the Love Live franchise as a whole if I'm being honest, has a problem with demoting or wasting characters in general outside their focus episode, or episodes in some cases. And Shiki is one of the worst examples of that. At least in Superstar, where she's arguably even worse in this regard than Cuckoo, since at least Cuckoo had season 1 to establish herself, even if season 2 was terrible with using her. We know her dynamic with Kanon and Shisato, even if it's not given any time this season. Shiki is Mei's friend. She's part of the first year's group, but that's really it in terms of dynamics. And what makes this even weirder is Mei is actually incredibly versatile in how she's used. In season 2, I honestly think she's second only to Kanon in terms of established or used dynamics and such. In addition to her relationship with Shiki, Kanon helps talk her into joining, and there's some parallels in their anxiety at performing, even if they manifest in different ways. She helps Kiniko a lot early on when she's shy about joining or being capable of performing with the team, probably because deep down she relates since she's too shy to join herself. She's the most active first year in their friend group and interacts with Shiki, Kiniko, and Natsume in their classroom scenes and such. She composes with Ren and plays a big role in her episode, and is ultimately a big part in Ren being able to come out of her shell. The manga anthology establishes the two bond over a shared love of video games after You Are Ren Hazuki as well. And she gets moments where she gets to idol fangirl with Cuckoo, which creates an interesting pair, even if it's not explored much. Really the only members she doesn't get any major interactions with, off the top of my head, are Sumire and Shisato. That's why, in addition to the normal gray areas with stuff like this, discussing whether Shiki Mei is a forced pairing is complicated. Mei is kind of one of Superstar's most well-defined characters if you're taking both seasons into account. Clearer goals and motivations, personality flaws and strength, defined relationship with most of the group. You know, everything a main character is supposed to have. Shiki, on the other hand, is basically the complete opposite. She's defined entirely by her gags and relationship with Mei. Mei plays a big role in You Are Ren Hazuki, getting caught up in helping Ren with her gamer addiction. I can't believe that's a sentence I actually get to say. I love that episode. Meanwhile, Shiki's role is to bluntly state they think Mei and Ren are in a secret relationship after Mei finds the group gossiping about it. And then later in the episode, she does this.
じゃあな。しきさん、大丈夫ですか？ちょっとのぼせただけだよ。メイのせい。
Okay, yeah, so they fucked. Like, how else am I supposed to interpret this? They went into some room in Ren's mansion and fucked. Mei somehow completely exhaust Shiki in the process. All while the others played Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury for the Nintendo Switch. I swear, You Are Ren Hazuki is one of the best episodes in the franchise. I love everything about it so much. Wait, what was this video about again? Oh yeah, are Shiki and Mei a forced pairing? Kinda. It wouldn't surprise me if, for better or worse, someone during the design or concept phase for Liella was like, what if we just made two of the new girls a couple to make it easier to introduce them? The pair's relationship is baked into their characters. I would not be surprised if vague, those air quotes are doing a lot of heavy lifting there, homoerotic subtext was part of the plan for their characters from the very start, to a greater degree than most Love Live characters, where it kinda developed over time, and especially in comparison to anyone else in Superstar. You were clearly meant to see these two as a possible couple from the very start. From what I've seen, this is a tactic the Link Like girls really ran with as well. I really need to look at their stuff as a whole at some point. There's some wild shit in there. This is a thumbnail on the official channel. I don't normally go like, oh my god, two characters looking at each other, they're totally in love, but like, look at this, they're about to kiss, what the fuck? Wait, Shiki and Mei, right. Don't get me wrong, I love them both, and they're a very cute pair, but their relationship does feel like it's limiting Shiki as a character. But then, like I said, Mei completely avoids that issue. Their relationship is part of her character, but not all of it, and she's extremely well-rounded as a result. As I've talked about numerous times, Superstar Season 2 in general had an issue with demoting characters though, so personally I'm hoping Shiki gets some time to herself, or with others besides Mei in season 3. Seriously, give us a Synchrise episode. I feel like that would be really fun. I want Chisato having to manage this random group of children. The pair ultimately embody the pros and cons of creating paired characters. They immediately have a dynamic to work with and explore, and that's intriguing to the audience and makes them more interesting. But you run the risk of having a situation like this where Shiki feels more like a tool for Mei's character than her own. It's not bait or anything in my eyes, and I mean, I don't think it's that forced, since ultimately they are really likable as a couple, and a lot of the popularity did come naturally. But it does create an issue where it seems like that's all there is to them. A ship. Well, that's definitely not at all the case for Mei in my eyes. It kind of is for Shiki. She only really has some mad scientist gags, which, don't get me wrong, I fucking love. There's some great shit to show outside of the ship. And I really hope that changes. I love both Shiki and Mei, and have since they were revealed, but the execution of their relationship has had some issues. Like a lot of stuff introduced in Superstar Season 2, unfortunately.